Hi everyone. Earlier in this year, we did an open discussion focusing on Elasticsearch. So I thought for this week's What's on Our Mind, I'll just run through some of the topics that I covered in that session so that they were down as a recording for people to take a look at. I suppose first of all, it's worth pointing out that by default, all of our new customers on Koha will always move on to Elasticsearch, but there may be some customers who are not yet on Elasticsearch. If you want to switch, do get in touch. There's some server-side elements that need to be followed through. But Elastic is, as we'll run through, has got a lot of improvements. The Zebra search engine that we were been used to within Koha was very much a black box. It was really hard to change anything, and I think you'll see as we run through some of the configuration with Elasticsearch shortly that it's much easier, it's much clearer where and how we can amend elements to do with our indexing, our search indexing. So I've started with just leaving up a catalogue, our demonstration catalogue here, just to run through some of the things that you can do with search with Elastic. There's a default set of indexes, and we'll have a look at those shortly. But in terms of basic search techniques, there is a default operator with AND, but you can also use Boolean and ors or nuts with capitalization. So for example, if I just click in the right box here, if we look for a search term, Shakespeare, capitalized and music, and run our search against that there, we're going to pull back 3 results, as you might expect. But then thinking back as to that default and that combines search, if I just remove the and there and do Shakespeare music, we also return those same 3 search results. So following through, obviously, for all of us good cataloguers out there, and ors or nots, Shakespeare or music is obviously going to hugely broaden out our search results, and of course Shakespeare not music is going to again adjust our search results in terms of what we retrieve. So we've now got 90, so we've got Shakespeare here but not related to music within his works or whatever. Those and ors or nots didn't used to be well supported with that capitalization previously within Zebra. We'd go to advanced search and use the operators there. So that's a huge improvement. Elastic will support question marks and asterisks. There's a lot of documentation out there about Elastic, so do have a look at how you can use wildcards. One that I particularly like is that you can now confidently use quote marks for grouping terms together. So with if I follow through with my Shakespeare example, if we look for Shakespeare and music in the quote marks and now run our search against those terms within quotes, we're now going to see a hit strictly for Shakespeare and music in that particular title, in the title in this instance. So it's going to look for those words as a phrase search in that instance. Have a look and read up about proximity searching. That's possible within with Elastic, and boosting results using the chevron character. Escaping results is also possible, all well documented using different characters. And you can also use tilde for fuzzy searching, and you apply it after the stem of whatever you're searching. And again, following through with Shakespeare, if I look for now shake with a tilde following that term and have a look at what search results we get there, we can see, if I just scroll down here, we've got one for America's steak as opposed to shake. We've got hake fishery. So we're actually creating a fuzzy search for using the tilde there. So there's some really nice search benefits. Maybe some may be quite useful from a librarian's point of view to be able to carry out different searches, but those features are there within Elastic. So do feel free to explore those. So there's some configuration involved with Elastic, as you might imagine. So I'm going to pop across now to an administration window, and if I just pop across here and look, I'm right on the right server. Yes, that's good. So first of all, there's a system preference. So if we just have a search here for the word Elastic in our system preferences, we can see instantly here that we've got a search engine system preference that tells me what search engine I'm using. So the choices there of obviously Zebra and Elastic. So we can set that. As I said, there is some server side that we would need to set up and make sure everything was up and running correctly for you. But in terms of the system preference there, that needs to be switched on for you to use Elastic. Once you're all set up, you can switch between those different indexing search methods if you want to, but check for that system preference to start with. In conjunction with the search engine system preference, we've also got an administration page. And if I go out to administration now, and we'll have a look at underneath catalog, we've got search engine configuration, Elasticsearch, where we can manage our indexes and facets and mappings. So let's pop into this area. It's quite a complicated area, but just at a glance, as you can see, we're immediately presented with our different search field and indexes, and we can see them all up front, what type of indexes we've got here, like author, barcode. Scrolling down, we're going to have control numbers, date of publication, editor, that sort of thing. And moving right further down, we've got notes, we've got subjects, and we've got title as well. So all of the traditional indexes that you'd expect, but there's also others here, and we can see from this screen, if I just scroll back up again, we've got the name, the short aliases that you might sometimes see when you've performed a search in a URL. And we've also got a column here that relates to weight, and we'll come back to have a little look at weight shortly. And there are a couple of columns at the end that relate to where they're searchable, staff interface and OPAC. And then these are our search fields and our search field names. Then if we switch across to the second tab here, we've got a tab that relates to bibliographic records. And this is what fields are indexed in terms of bibliographic records, and specifically what mark mappings relate to the search indexes that you're going to be using. Just the very top one here, abstract mapping here, is a 520. And scrolling a little further down, we've got author, and the mapping here is the 100A. So the mapping here can relate to whole fields. It can relate to a field and a subfield, as in the 100A. And in some instances also, you can see they may even be mapped to more than one subfield. So you've got a whole raft of all the different indexes and what search fields they relate to, described in the mapping column, as you can see there. Oh, I'm just going to scroll all the way down to the bottom here. Actually here, if I look for this one, index term genre, this is an illustration of where the mapping relates to more than one subfield. You can obviously see that that's possible here in this instance. So if I scroll all the way to the bottom here, we can instantly see what fields are mapped, what marked fields are mapped to where, and we've also got an option here to make adjustments to those mappings and to add new mappings to a search field, to this indexing block here. So for example, If I have a particular local field that I use in my library, there may be local fields that you've used historically for notes, internal note fields, or there may even be more sort of eclectic fields, perhaps if you're managing exhibitions and different types of material that aren't necessarily in this default search field set. We can map them to a search field here. So if I, for example, want to add an exhibition mark tag, the 585, to search against my exhibitions, I can select the search field. So I might map it against note in this instance. And I can apply, in terms of the columns that I set here, I generally apply and match them to equivalent, so sortable. It's not going to be facetable. And then in the mapping column, this is where I set my marked mapping here. So 585. And if I want specifically to look for the subfield A there, I can put in my 585A in this instance here. And then I would click on add here. Once you've added, if you go ahead and add new mappings to specific search fields, you've got a save option there, which you would need to use. But the next step in that is it does require an index rebuild. ElasticSearch has really improved indexing times, but obviously that indexing, that rebuild needs to take place on the server, and that would be something that as customers we'd want you to open a support ticket with us for running a rebuild index. But in terms of the length of time that, say, Zebra used to take, we've got much reduced indexing times so that there's less inconvenience to your own users. So we can add new fields. And we can also, so we can add new fields here and click on save. I'll just point you here to this, not to look at that reset mappings button there and avoid it. And the reason you would avoid it is that if at any point you've ever made any amendments to your mappings tables, added new fields, or whether you've requested us to add them for you, resetting mappings will sort of set it back to factory defaults, so you would lose those. So it's just a heads up, be very cautious. If you're adding a new field, use the save button rather than reset mappings, and then you'll be right. There's also a little panel here for facet order, and if I just pop back to my OPAC display here, we all know what facets are, the ability to refine your search based on different facets that are pulled out from your bibliographic data, but also potentially your item data as well. So it could be related to authors, it could be related to item types. And in Elastic, again, we see those facet orders, the facets that are set up and available very clearly here. At the moment, I'm using a 2311 here. I can reorder those so that they display differently on the screen, so I can shift title series above location and so on. And again, if I'm making those changes, I'd need to save. So down the line, there's going to be the ability to add new for facet orders. So there's a lot of flexibility here, but also there's a tick box. So if you don't want specific facets to display, you can just deselect them here from this panel here, and again click save. So the last thing that I wanted to just take a look at was this idea of weighting. And if I just scroll along to the top here, and if we pop back to where it says search fields, and we look at the weight column that sits against all of these index search field names, applying a weight allows you to boost a field, in terms of searching for relevance ranking. So if you've got no weights in this column, all fields are going to be considered equally in terms of search. But if you choose to increase a weight for different fields, it gives more importance to those different fields. So it will push a field which has a weighted index higher than a field records without a weighted value here. A common one that that you might think of applying is to weight the title field higher than, for example, a note field. So if you were going to do something like that, and again, there's quite a lot of documentation on this on the Koha site and also on other searches out there. What we might do is choose to rank the title, to weight the title higher. So we might put the title as 200, and then we might set a note value lower than that, say 100, for example. And that's immediately giving a gradation of a higher value to a title field in terms of weight than to a note. So again, we can advise you on different ways that you might choose to apply those weights if you start thinking that you might want to tweak those weightings in terms of how records come back and how they're ordered and how they pull back in terms of when you do your searches. So Elasticsearch, really much more flexible than Zebra. Your indexes are really in the clear. We can sort of see a lot with a lot more clarity what indexes are set and particularly what mark fields they map to. And it means that you can change those mappings if you want to and add new ones. So all in all, fantastic Elastic. I hope you've found some use and a little bit of interest in that discussion about Elasticsearch on Koha. Thanks for listening. Thank you. Bye.